Oh, you didn't know? Yo ass better call somebody. Sorry about that. So, this is my Royal Rumble 2012 prediction show. And I'm trying to think what's the best way to do this. What I want to happen, what I think's gonna happen, what's the logical thing that could happen. And the WWE usually does not follow logic. So it's kind of hard for me to come up with the best way to do this show. So I'll probably just throw a lot of ideas out there on what I think is going to happen. The simplest one is probably just Cena versus Kane. But since there's only 4 matches announced for the show, and I don't know how long the Royal Rumble is probably going to go, I'm expecting a filler match, maybe even two. They'll probably start the show off with Primo and Epico defending the belts against somebody. And they will probably do a Divas match, possibly Natalia versus Tamina. They didn't book that, even though they'd been kind of feuding for a little bit, so I'm not sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was some at least one Divas match on this show. And I have no problem with that. I know with only 4 matches announced, I expect something like that. Then we have Cena versus Kane, and that's probably the easiest to predict. I know a lot of people want this feud to be over, and trust me, I agree with you. But I think that since WrestleMania is still a little ways away, and they're really just waiting on The Rock to come back and start feuding with Cena and cutting promos to build up WrestleMania. I don't think The Rock's coming back in February. I think his next scheduled Raw show is in March. So they still need Kane to fill some space with Cena. So I see, Kane pulling some kind of cheap victory win over Cena at the Royal Rumble, and them feuding possibly up until Elimination Chamber, and then blowing the feud off there. So I don't think Cena's going to win this match. I don't think this feud's going to be over. I think he still has to go through this whole embrace the hatred thing. So as much as we don't want to see it, I would get used to it for at least a little bit longer. Then we have Daniel Bryan versus Mark Henry in the Big Show in a triple threat steel cage match. Now, I know they're kind of starting to turn Mark Henry babyface. Big Show's already babyface, and Daniel Bryan's pretty much full-blown heel at this point. So, I am going to say, just guessing, that Mark Henry and the Big Show will probably take each other out in this match, and then Daniel Bryan steals the win by climbing the cage. So he never really beats either of these guys. They kind of just eliminate each other, with Daniel Bryan still in the win. And that way he can hold the belt until WrestleMania. Hopefully. I hope he does, because I really like him as a heel. I think he's been great so far. It's weird because when Daniel Bryan was a babyface, I couldn't picture him ever being a heel, but now that he's, being a heel in full force, it's like I can't picture him not being a heel. So I think he's doing this very well. He's got it right. Then we have Dolph Ziggler versus CM Punk with Laurinaitis as the special referee. This one's a little bit more difficult because now they've added the stipulation that Laurinaitis is under review, and Triple H is going to review him on Monday, so he technically can't screw CM Punk over. So the next best thing I'm thinking is that CM Punk is so worried about Laurinaitis screwing him over, but it's actually going to be Jericho who screws CM Punk over. And that way, Jericho fulfills his promo because he said at Royal Rumble, it'll be the end of the world as you know it. And as we all know, CM Punk calls himself the best in the world. So Jericho could attack CM Punk at the Royal Rumble, screw him out of the title. They still have plenty of time to build Dolph Ziggler as a worthy champion on Raw, and they can build him up and then lead into WrestleMania with Jericho versus Punk. So I think that could work. I wouldn't mind seeing that either. I have heard a lot of rumors though that the Royal Rumble itself is, a lot of people think Jericho's going to win that. So if he did win that, he could go into WrestleMania and challenge Punk for the title that way, but they've just been pushing Dolph Ziggler, and they're using this whole John Laurinaitis angle. I think it would be a better, more exciting show if Jericho did that. But then again, they're also saying this Royal Rumble, anyone can enter, and they're really hyping that up. They're playing up that angle. And apparently that means, anybody can enter even after they've had a match on the show. So I assume the Rumble will be the main event, which is good. And say CM Punk loses his belt to Dolph Ziggler, he can still win the Royal Rumble and challenge him for it at WrestleMania. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that's kind of what they're saying the Rumble is. Like, anybody can come into it. As for the Royal Rumble itself, I know Miz has got the number one spot. I could see R-Truth, because all the wrestlers backstage have to go draw their numbers, I could see R-Truth drawing and getting spot number 2. And then him and Miz start off the Royal Rumble with 1 and 2 spots. And it just kind of goes from there. I know they usually use some legends for surprises. Mick Foley's already kind of taking a legend spot. And I was thinking that for a cool surprise, they could use Road Dogg. It would be cool if they used both New Age Outlaws, but since I think Triple H and Billy Gunn are on bad terms with each other, and Road Dogg was at the Slammies, and he's now working as an agent backstage. I think Road Dogg could be a very obvious choice as a legend. And when his music hits, that will probably pop the crowd huge. And, he wouldn't have to do much. Even when he was a wrestler, in Royal Rumbles, he really just held onto the bottom rope and tried to hide. So it wouldn't be hard for him at all. So I think Mick Foley, Road Dogg are your two legends. And that's really my favorite part of the Rumble. I'm sure Christian will return at the Rumble. I'm sure Del Rio will return at the Rumble. This Royal Rumble, I'm actually pretty excited about. It's my favorite pay-per-view of the year. I really love it. The concept's great. And you get to see all the wrestlers, which is always fun. But I just hope they don't fill it with too many filler guys like Yoshi Tatsu's and Tyler Rex and Kurt Hawkins type guys. I'm not saying these guys are bad. I like Yoshi Tatsu, and I want them to get the Royal Rumble payday. But when you fill it with guys like that, it just makes you can't get very excited about the next number when it's just a bunch of filler guys who are just going to get thrown out who have no chance of winning this thing. You want it full of guys who anyone has a chance, like Cody Rhodes could win, Sheamus could win, Wade Barrett, who I personally would like Wade Barrett to win and get a big push because I think he's great. But you need guys like that. Filling it with a bunch of other guys just really takes away a lot of the, excitement for me. That being said, I'm afraid they're going to do that because Yoshi Tatsu hasn't been on SmackDown in God knows how long. In fact, when they did the draft, I'm pretty sure he was drafted to Raw. But yet he's back on SmackDown and he wrestled a match Friday, and the only reason I think he was on SmackDown is so people have seen him on TV at least once. So when he comes out at the Royal Rumble, it won't be like, who is that guy? At least people will have a general idea. So seeing Yoshi Tatsu on SmackDown just kind of already put that in my mind. I was afraid they'd do something like that, and they did it. So, if it's a couple guys, a Yoshi Tatsu here, and, something like that, then that's fine, but just don't fill it with a bunch of jobber guys. Don't fill it with Alex Riley and JTG and just all those jobber guys, please. It'll probably be a great show, though. Brodus Clay will pop the crowd huge, I bet, when he comes out, because he won't be wrestling a jobber. He'll actually be in the Royal Rumble, and people can see what he's made of. They can see what he can actually do now. So I'm excited for that. And oh man, who do I think is going to win the Royal Rumble? My obvious choice is Jericho, but if the, aforementioned thing I said with him screwing CM Punk happens, then it wouldn't make sense for him to win the Royal Rumble, because then he would have to pick a champion and Punk wouldn't be the champion anymore. So I also hear a lot of talk that Randy Orton could win the Royal Rumble, and I just really don't want to see that again. I mean, who wants to see that? Randy Orton as the champion does nothing for me. Him winning the Rumble does nothing for me. We've seen it so many times. It's going to get on John Cena level here if that happens again. So I really hope that doesn't happen, but it looks like it could be Jericho or Orton. So out of all these guys, I'm going to have to say Jericho. Now I do hope the Laurinaitis thing happens and they could do something with that, but at this point it's really up in the air. I've heard a ton of different rumors about this. I mean, everybody assumes that WrestleMania is going to be Triple H versus Taker, and it's going to be CM Punk versus Jericho. However, I have also heard that because of these rumors flying around, WWE wants to swerve everyone and give us Jericho versus Taker and Punk versus Triple H, which could happen. Say Triple H comes back and sides with Laurinaitis and says you've been doing a great job, and then CM Punk has to feud with Triple H. They could pull that off easily. But I'm going to have to go with my gut here and say the norm happens. Triple H versus Taker at Mania, CM Punk versus Jericho at Mania, and Jericho probably winning the Royal Rumble. So, or, Dolph Ziggler loses the title and he somehow comes back and wins the Royal Rumble. That would actually be awesome because Dolph Ziggler's getting a huge push. That could work. He could win the Rumble and still go, challenge Punk and keep that thing going. So it's really up in the air right now, and WWE with their last minute decisions and changing their minds so often, it's really hard to come up with a good coherent prediction show. But I hope everybody liked this and has subscribed to my channel. And if you have subscribed, thank you so much. It really helps me out a lot. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe because I do a lot of wrestling shows. I put up a review as quickly as possible after every wrestling show. Monday Night Raw, TNA, Friday SmackDown, Ring of Honor, all the pay-per-views. So if you subscribe, it'll tell you when I have a video up immediately, and then you can check it out that way. So if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. And thank you for listening to this. I hope you enjoyed it. It's just something I wanted to do. I watched Raw and SmackDown this week, so there's really nothing left to build for the pay-per-view. So I figured, why not just go ahead and do the Royal Rumble prediction show now. So I hope everybody likes this, and I will be back tomorrow night doing Ring of Honor's TV taping, and I will also be back here for the pay-per-view. So go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and thanks for listening. Bye.